my journey. I'm willing to explain it all to you guys. No holding back anything. I just hope you're ready for the experience, and I just hope you can handle it.
What's going on, everyone? So, what I'd like to talk about in this video, I want to talk about a pet peeve of mine. Now, this pet peeve of mine is when somebody brings up age. Okay, when somebody brings up age, I guess it's a pet peeve of mine because it's happened to me since I was a kid, since I was young. You know, everyone would always say, "Oh, you're too young, you don't understand." You know, but I was a very observant child, so I tend to, I want to say, understand more than most children when I was younger. Just about reality, about the realness of reality. Like, most kids are in a delusion because their parents lie to them. You know, I grew up in a household where my mom didn't really lie to me. She was open with me, she was honest with me about so many different things. Um, we just had a very open and close relationship growing up, which allowed me to just be open with myself. But I feel like when I was younger, my friends were always older than me. I was 8 years old when my best friend was 14. So like I've always been around older people and I've always learned from older people. So I've always had an older mentality. So the reason why it's a pet peeve of mine is because so many people will be like, "Oh, you're young, you don't understand. Oh, you're young," and even still to this day, I'm 24 years old today, but so many people still be like, "Oh, you're young, you don't understand." You'll understand when you go through it in a few years, and it's like I try and I hold my composure, a lot when when somebody brings age into it, but like deep down inside, it fucking goddamn irritates my soul because I believe that I've lived thousands of years, so I don't believe that I'm limited to how old my human body is. Um, at the same time, I don't feel like I'm limited to my age, even if this was my only life, because I think people are only looking at it from their own selfish perspective. They're not looking at it from the whole. So if you look at it from the whole, it's like this. You can have someone who's, let's say you got two people that are 22 years old. Okay? You got someone who's 22 years old with no kids, and then you got someone who's 22 years old with kids. They're going to be completely on two different levels. They're not going to be on the same wavelength. They're not going to be in the same mindset because, you know, having children makes it so you think differently. A lot people that don't have kids don't really understand that. It's like people think that it makes you have more responsibility or this or that, and it's like you could throw these words around, yeah, um, but it's deeper than just having more responsibility. It's the fact that you are in charge of another human life, and everything you do will affect this human life. Um, it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of pressure on you. You are forced into an evolution, you're forced into a change when you're a parent, so you're forced to grow up fast. Now I became a parent when I was 17 years old, so at 17, I had this evolution in the mind where it was like that was my first, like, you can call it like a sober breakthrough, where I had this sober breakthrough of reality of who I am, of who I think I am, of what I want to do and what I want to be, and the type of person I want to be, because I was trying to be a wannabe thug, and I didn't want my child to have that type of father, right? So I began this change of evolution, and I think this is what happens when you're a parent. You begin to change for your children. You are driven for your children, not for yourself anymore. And I think that's a huge difference between 22 years old with children and 22 years old with no children. Is that when you're 22 years old with no children, you're just being selfish. You're just worried about yourself. You're usually in your party stages. You're usually whatever. You're usually very immature in the mind. You're usually whatever. And for me, that was never me. That was never my party stages were from 14, like 13, 14 years old. That was my party stages. You know, after that, I didn't really go through the typical party stage or like the early 20 thing or whatever. Like when I was 20 years old, I started using psychedelics. So this is what I mean, where it's like the reason why it's such a pet peeve of mine for age is because you don't know what the fuck people go through. So you have no clue that, let's say you have someone who's 50 years old who has been sheltered his whole life, or someone who's 20 years old who has never been sheltered. The 22-year-old will technically know more about life. Because yeah, the 50-year-old has experienced life more, has lived more years, but I feel like the 50-year-old wouldn't know really life because how many struggles have you gone through? You know, like these are these are things that I think about when somebody brings up age. It's like, okay, if you're bringing age into it and saying, oh, that person doesn't know because they're young, then you don't know because you're old. Then you don't realize the world has evolved since you were a kid, and that because of technology, children are getting faster, smarter. I mean, they're getting smarter faster. They're gaining this knowledge a lot faster. Um, I just think that, when you bring age into a situation, it just kind of I feel like you're just using your ego as like a defense mechanism because you don't want to feel stupid. Um, and I think too many people have this weird fucking pride with themselves that they need to get rid of. Um, you gotta stop trying to be right, just because I don't give a fuck. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? So meaning, if there is a fucking 10-year-old who is trying to teach me something, I'm gonna fucking listen. And I'm gonna listen with no bias. I'm gonna listen with all ears open and being open minded. I think that if you're judging someone on their age, you're damn sure not open minded because you're prejudging someone based on your experiences in life, which is selfish. So instead of worrying about how you feel and what you did when you were 20, why don't you think about that not everyone was probably you. Not everyone's you. Not everyone does the same thing you did when you were 20. So like for example, I started using psychedelics at 20 years old and went into it taking it seriously, not the party stages. So many people have this prejudgment of psychedelics because they did it when they were in their teens, and they're like, yeah, I did it in my early 20s and went to raves and this and that. Like, I've never been to a rave before, at least tripping. Like, I went to one rave before, and it was before I started using psychedelics. So it's like, I think that we have this prejudgment that we kind of need to get rid of, where it's like, yeah, you might have been tripping balls at 20 years old just to party and just to see the walls breathe. But I was tripping at 20 years old to try to understand death, to try to understand my life, to try to understand why humans exist. Why am I here? What's the point? What is the point of reality itself? What is like that's what I was trying to figure out, right? I was trying to figure out if Terrence McKenna was 100% accurate on what he was saying. I was trying to figure out deep shit at 20 years old because like I said, when I was 8 years old, my best friend was 14. So I think that played a lot into me growing up fast, but this is why age has always irritated me, because people are limited by their age. I don't give a fuck how old you are. All I care about is how articulate you are with the words you speak. Can you actually explain, what you're thinking? And if you can explain what you're thinking detailed enough for me to actually listen to it and actually gain something out of it and be understandable, then I am willing to listen to everybody. You know, I learn more from my 7-year-old than I do from most 20-year-olds. So I just think that we live in this delusion world where where we think that older people know. No, they have more wisdom technically because they've lived longer. Technically, they should. But that doesn't mean they do, because the world is evolving with technology. So think about this. I personally didn't have technology. I didn't start using technology until I was like 12 years old, 11 years old. Um, Most kids nowadays start using technology by the time they're 2. But before they could even speak, they can use technology. Before they can read or write, they can ask their phone or ask Google, questions, to learn about reality, to learn about whatever they want to learn about. And I think that we just need to, you know, be more open-minded to the change, and instead of judging someone on their age, stop being judgmental, because that is a bad trait. It's a very bad trait to be talking about someone, to be judging someone, to be whatever. Like, suspend all your fucking judgments from people, and then you might learn something from those people that you were trying to judge. Um, I just think that people get jealous. Jealous and envy is a dangerous thing. And I'm gonna make another video about that right now. But I just wanted to end this video though first. So thank you guys so much for watching. Um, don't judge someone on their age. Judge them on their knowledge. You know, like I said, I've probably learned more from a 7-year-old than most people learn from 20-year-olds, because you can learn a lot you can learn a lot from the world by observing teenagers, observing kids. You can learn a lot because they're changing, they're revolving, they're learning faster, they're becoming more articulate a lot faster. At the same time, there are also a side of the world that's dumbing down, but it's like, with technology, we're able to learn faster and faster and faster. So the 20-year-olds, 20 years ago, if you were 20 years old 20 years ago, it was basically being like a 15-year-old today. A 15-year-old today is just as smart and knows almost just as much as the 20-year-old did 20 years ago. So instead of judging the evolution, why don't you get with the evolution? Because the reason why people get jealous is because it's like, oh, these kids grew up with technology, and back in my day, I didn't have that. Well, you do have it now, so stop fucking complaining about back in your fucking day, and realize that you're still alive today, so you can use the technology that they're using. The only difference is that they don't have the prejudgment like you do. The reason why these kids can learn from technology faster than you is because you have this prejudgment of technology, and they do not. They just think it is what it is. That's life to them. And to you, it's an option. It's an option to life. It's a tool. To them, it's just part of life. So I feel like, don't be jealous of someone just because they might know more than you and you're older than them. Well, why don't you realize that age is a made up number that does not exist, and it does not fucking matter, and that my soul is probably thousands of years old and my human body is only 24 years old, but it does not matter, because experience trumps over age. So I've had a lot of experiences, and honestly, I probably have more experiences than most people that are 50 years old. There's some people that I know personally that are like in their 50s, that still don't get it. Like, they haven't really had many experiences, so it's like they don't really understand life. They think life is all about being sheltered and being comfortable and all this other shit, when it's like, that's just the sheltered version of life. What life is really about is experience, and learning from your experiences, and growing and learning from each other and connecting. But yeah, don't judge people on their age.